Yeah, Chris, you need coffee. I need coffee. I need something, that's for sure. It's early, right? I know. It's early for a snow talk. But is it really ever too early for a snow talk? Probably in my case, there is. I hope you guys are doing well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Yeah, I'm filling in for Jessica today. So I thought, hey, why not? Why not talk to you guys before we get back into the shows again here very soon on Wave? Obviously, we're going to talk about the long term before we get to that. Big shout out, obviously, and thanks to our veterans out there in the past and presently certainly serving. They deserve certainly much more than a social media post. But thinking of everyone today, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get everyone out to all the different parades and events we have going on today. As we have the parade, I believe the parade, how it's structured this year is different parades within the city, and they all converge together in downtown at about noon, if I understand that correctly. I know it's a bit different than I remember before, but either way, great setup for the weather on that end today. And the weather tends to be wild for Veterans Day. Sometimes we have rain events, very warm. And as I've mentioned before this morning on air, that we had snow 4 years ago. It was about a 1-inch snowfall, but it was snowfall nonetheless that took place 4 years ago. So, yeah, you always get some weird weather vibes as you get into mid-November. But this year has actually been relatively quiet for us, which is good. As always, you guys can comment. And you already are. I see your post comments. This is probably not good. I'm doing this live. This is not a good idea. On social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well on there. So appreciate it. And for those of you that are watching on streaming, you're like, what are you talking about? Well, you'll see it all. If you watch the replay back, you can see the comments. Okay, so you guys know I'm here, right? I'm sure you do. It's an update, of course, to the snowboard for Thanksgiving week. That's, I haven't changed it. I haven't changed the date. I'm going to keep it right now for the 22nd through the 25th with, yes, Thanksgiving included in that. I haven't changed the status of what it looks to be, rain to snow, which is very common, and the first one especially of the season that you have a chance at, and I'm not raising the scale on it. Why? Well, for one, it's about 11 days out before we start to get into the discussion of this. So not quite within our 10-day outlook, but within the range of the blog. So that's the reason why it's still listed. But there's also questions on how we get to this potential, because it may not be just one. There could actually be two involved in this. So I'll try to explain some of the latest maps on this. But you guys, I guess, always try to use my disclaimers. I have to issue them often. Years of practice of learning responses to SnowTALK blogs. We're talking about snow in general. You got to deal with the response to this. Is that things will likely keep changing. But this is an overview of how things are trending, and always the first chance. I don't care if it's flurries. I don't care if it's flurries. It always gets everyone excited in wave country. Well, most people, it gets them excited. So even if it's a minor setup, flurries and, say Groundhog Day, not that exciting. Everyone's usually about over it at that point. But the first round, see some flakes, always gets the attention. So we'll have more on that in just a second. As always, at least want to do just a quick rundown in the short term, just for those of you that are curious. And then we'll get back on the topic here real quick. But this is not going to take long because there's not much to talk about in the short term. It is very, very, very quiet. Cold morning. Beautiful sunrise just took place not long ago. We're 39. I believe we hit 38 for a low here in the city of Louisville, several 20s across Indiana. Those of you in central Kentucky had clouds for about 4 hours last night, early this morning. They're gone now, but you had some to where you were able to slow the thermometer drop just a tad bit there. Nice and quiet here. Rain from Myrtle Beach all the way to Atlanta. There is rain back in the plains. This is actually going to be our weather maker, if you will, for tomorrow. We're only going to get the clouds from this, though. It's just going to dry up as it heads eastbound. Not much left. And in some cases, the clouds, I don't know if we even hold on all the way through. But at least some increase in cloud cover right now is expected, but no rain, too dry for that. All right, so that's the one setup that we're going to be watching. The questions all kick in, of course, about how the rest of the weekend will evolve too. There's the passing clouds, 30s tonight, lower 60s tomorrow, mid 60s. I think in general for a few days next week, we'll average about 65 to 70 for a high, which is pretty awesome. We'll take that. So what is the storyline? How do we get to the Thanksgiving week setup? Well, there's a couple of things that happen before we get to that point. You're looking at the Euro first. Keep an eye on the tropical influence here. There's actually more of a tropical wave that's off the chart down, a little further down in latitude, but there's also a broad trough, if you will, not overly organized, more of like a linear fashion, if you will, elongated trough in the Gulf of Mexico into the deep southeast. This at one point early in the week, this previous week, and my apologies in advance, talking on Saturday is going to throw my timing off, but earlier in the week, I had a chance to phase with the system that was coming out of the Rockies, and it was going to potentially be something a little more eye-catching for us for the new week ahead. Well, timing is everything, right? So the game plan is that this southern piece is going to get to the east and move faster than the northern one will. So there will not be any type of interlocking here or phasing. But the southern wave, because it is going to be separated, it's got some dry air to battle. I just don't think it's going to be able to do much for us. We're keeping a 10% chance in for Wednesday as it scoots by. But again, it'd be very similar to the past several systems that will be indeed moisture starved. So what happens after that? Well, then the northern part then finally arrives, but it's a northern stream feature. So its job is difficult. It has to act like a shovel and try to pull in whatever it can that the southern piece left behind as far as moisture for it to use when it arrives here on Friday. There's not going to be a lot for it to work with, as you might imagine, because of the first round scooting across the southern part of the country. But that is at least our next decent chance. It's higher than a 20% would be next Friday for a band of showers to move through. But because, too, they are not phased together, there is no cold air getting entrenched in this. It'll be just a slight drop, nothing dramatic. It moves on by. Then we get into much more of a closed system here that'll roll off the Rockies as we head into the start of Thanksgiving week, the travel week period. And this is going to roll out with rain, probably some thunder, some gusty winds. I don't see severe weather right now with this. The exception may be the far deep south areas, the Arklatex area of the country, perhaps, yes. Notice the purple here, the blue, the cold air that's trying to get pulled into this. Here's the problem that this system's got. There's several, but the one thing that's standing out is how much cold air will this thing be able to pull in behind it. That will be determined by a few other factors. One of the more important ones will be how strong does the low get. If it gets too strong, too fast, it will likely take a little more of a northerly track. Then we'll have to deal with perhaps some thunderstorm potential out of this for Thanksgiving week, and any snow chance would stay mainly north, rain to snow chance. The complicated part about this is, say, for example, that is indeed what ends up happening. We end up with a northern track feature. Can you still get snow out of this for Thanksgiving? Yes, because as this system moves on by, if it is indeed a stronger system, it would then mean the second wave has a very good chance of diving and digging more to the south, and therefore would have the colder rain snow line more south as well. Then that would line up very close to the Wednesday or Thanksgiving, that it could be a rain to snow setup for that one as well. So it's a 1-2 punch, at least with the Euro. That's the way it's looking to me right now, that it wants to trend toward, is that kind of a scenario. That's just the Euro. Now let's look at the GFS. Very similar for the Wednesday southern wave, a weak little passing area of clouds, maybe a shower south. There we go with the Friday wave. So far, so good, right? They look to be best friends. Everything's going well. They're holding hands. But then we get into Thanksgiving week. They do look similar from a distance, but you got to look carefully. There is much more of a colder profile here because the low is going to dig and get stronger, which is a little suspect that the GFS is wanting to do that. It's going to take one heck of a large high to the north to really push it down. And there are hints of that, but that's where the models are different. They all vary a little bit on how that track will get pushed to the south. It's tough. It is tough around here. I would think right now the Euro idea of rain and thunder, backlash, flurries, and then a system behind it that could have a rain or snow setup toward Thanksgiving, to me right now seems more likely. The GFS idea, which I stopped the frames here, I didn't go past this map on this particular model run. For those of you that look at the models, you know why, because you know what it shows. And I don't want to get that narrative out there right now because it's just too early. Too early to show that particular setup on the model for one run. But I can, to be fair, I can show you what the different ideas are from the GFS and the ensembles, because I think that does help explain the uncertainty still on this. Because when you look at each individual square, again, I apologize, we bring up full screen. Not all of them have a system even around for the early week time period for Thanksgiving week. This one's interesting. This one has hints of it. There's a hint there. Maybe. Not enough cold air. Maybe. Yep. That looks fun. That one is more the second wave that it's seeing there, by the way, for toward Thanksgiving. So they all kind of vary a little bit on the timing of this, but there's not, if I see the same setup in nearly every square, then confidence starts to go up on that scenario evolving. Obviously, we're not there yet. But I do think by far, that's the reason why it's on the snowboard. The layout, the players are on the field, everything is lining up here for a colder setup toward Thanksgiving week that will have a rain to snow type of feature. I just don't know yet if it's going to be out of the first one or out of the second one, or for snow lovers, if you're lucky enough, you may get both. But I do think at least two systems may pass through the Ohio Valley during this window. That's the exciting news, right? Not great for travel, because if it's not a huge issue here, it likely will be for somebody in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. So travel in general for the connecting hubs for airlines will likely see some impacts there, because the signal is fairly strong on a system moving through this neck of the woods for the travel period. So I do think the travel issues will be something we'll be talking a lot about. And we haven't had anything really close to this as far as active systems moving through the Ohio Valley really since September. Anything to this level, it's been a while, been a long time. So this one's going to get a lot of attention for many reasons. But for right now, I'm not going to give you anything on snow amounts. I don't know. No one knows that. All I can tell you is the setup that would allow it. The cold air part of this, it's not overwhelming. It's just enough to get things to the interesting category here, because the cold air doesn't exactly become a full-on stretch here of the polar vortex. It wants to, but it's not quite there. What ends up happening is you end up with a piece or two that's breaking off from it, and that moves into Canada, and that's where these systems are trying to take advantage of and get some of the cold air involved in these storm systems. But as I said before, it only needs to be just cold enough to snow, right? Just cold enough. You don't need Arctic air to get things wild in this area, but certainly that's, I think there'll be enough in the region here to get snow chances, at least to enter our forecast here very, very soon. Now, this is interesting. There's a lot of great minds, climatologists, meteorologists that are out there that are analyzing the polar vortex. Here's one thing that I want to mention. Let me back up for a second. Because once we get beyond this setup for Thanksgiving week, there's a lot of questions on December in a big, big way. Very conflicting pieces of data. I've seen a lot of theories and points that indicate a very warm, off the charts, warm December. But there are other signals that something else may be happening here. And to explain what I'm about to show you, I got to explain a little bit about something unique about why the polar vortex is significant. You have to keep in mind that it's all about wind into the higher latitudes. When you get a very strong west wind, you're dealing with a strong polar vortex. We can measure that wind. We can track that wind. We can see that it's strong. When that wind begins to weaken, and in some cases it reverses and comes in from the east, you get what we call a stratospheric warming event. And if it happens rapidly and is extreme, it's called a sudden stratospheric warming event. That basically just inverses the warm air that you would have at the ground level, flips them basically upside down to where you get the colder air at the ground level where we are, and it's on the move. And that's where you get your cold Arctic outbreaks, like everyone remembers from like 2013, 14, that made headlines there for a while. When polar vortex first made news headlines, period, even though it's been around for a long, long time, it just didn't become a meme until then. What is interesting is that there is a measurement here of the wind. Strong west wind, in fact, getting close to record levels is happening now. But look what happens once we get into the latter half of December. The wind fields begin to relax. And there is a strong signal there could be a complete reversal here. Now, this is only just one model's idea of this happening. That's the reason why I think there's still a lot of argument about how the rest of December and really the winter will play out. There is a bit of a lag reaction to this, usually about a week. So say we were to see this reversal happen, this would take place very close to Christmas to New Year's. We would see the impacts of that. I just don't know where it would be yet, but it would certainly, if it's to this level, it would completely change the winter outlook to much more of an extreme setup on cold for either it's going to be Eurasia or even into North America. So it would pretty much wipe out all the talk you've been hearing about when it comes to the warm setup from El Nino. So it's very interesting that, again, we have to look at so many different factors. El Nino is, yes, strong, but this could be a game changer. Could be a game changer as we head down the road. I'll keep you posted, I promise. You can see it's a long way off. It doesn't happen rapidly. Despite the name of sudden, it really isn't that sudden. So that's the good news. So we got to get through the Thanksgiving week setup, and then we'll just see. We'll see how this evolves later in December into January. Okay. Anywhere, everyone good? No one. Let's see. Any questions? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Seen some names that I haven't seen in a while. Where you guys been? You're probably working, right? Vicky, no snow, please. No snow. She's like, warm weather, please bring on the warmth. Hey, you never know. You never know. The first round being offshore Friday wants to try to develop. It looks like it will be absorbed into the larger system. I'm assuming you're meaning the one for next Friday, not Thanksgiving week, right? Yes, the one next Friday. The two eventually do shake hands, if you will, as they get further east of the I-65 latitude area. We run into a little more of a phasing there, but it's not going to be an impact enough to be significant for us here locally. Okay, everyone seems good. All right, I hope you guys understood all that. I don't mean to get too heavy and too nerdy on a Saturday morning. It's early in the day, but at least want to make sure to touch base with you guys because I know this is going to get more and more talk, more than it already has, and I want to make sure that I explained that, yes, we see it. We see the data on it. But while it's exciting for snow lovers to see that chance is holding, I just don't want you to get too excited too early yet, because there's still those questions we got to figure out. We got to figure out if it's the first one or second one. We got to figure out certainly there's going to be enough cold air getting pulled down behind it or not. At least let's get some rain out of it, and then hopefully we'll get something frozen on the other end. All right. So if you want to think about your holiday decorations or whether or not you're going to put up the lights on the roof, and you typically do it the day after Thanksgiving, as a lot of people do, you may want to think about doing it this weekend while it's sunny before you have to deal with the cold weather and deal with all that mess that may be coming our way as we head into, the late December time period, especially. Things are going to get a little wild for us. All right, that's it. I'll stop rambling. I've rambled enough today. But you know what? I'm not done. I have to get ready and get into the studio because sunrise is about to start up again in about 10 minutes. Olivia and I will be on until 10 o'clock this morning. I hope you guys will tune in. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it as always, guys. Have a good rest of the weekend and enjoy that sunshine today.